Hello and welcome back to our final installment of our audio plays for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. If you haven't had a chance to enjoy our previous chapters, what you'll see is our incredible cast and crew that have come together to recreate our own version for the screenplay for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But seeing as this is the final installment, we've decided to go above and beyond and create something truly magical. This time, our incredible voice actors are partnering with our very talented artists to create almost a movie layout for you of what we envision is going on during these scenes. So, I would like to introduce you to our cast and crew. For our artists, we have Skully, aka Tammy, Pufflespower, Ilbri, San, aka Amber, and Ness. You'll see their incredible works of art throughout these scenes. And for our actors, playing Harry Potter, we have Mystery Fields. Ron Weasley will be played by Leafy. Hermione Granger will be played by Silver Hayes. Voldemort and Hagrid will be played by Finn. Professor Quirrell and Percy will be played by Kevin.
Professor Dumbledore will be played by SaturnVaga.
Mcgonagall will be played by Morgan. And finally, if you haven't had a chance to meet me, I'm Summer, and I'm directing and narrating today's performance. Our recording manager today is Nimmy. Our video manager is Salty, and our video editor is Silver. Very good. So, in chapter 5, we saw our heroes trying to rule out the chances of who could be after the Philosopher's Stone. And they have a sneaking suspicion it could be Professor Snape. Let's find out what happens. Ron and Hermione turn and see Harry standing by the floating broom in the center of the room, looking up.
They're keys, and I'll bet one of them fits that door.
Hermione tests the doorknob and nods.
Locked.
Aloha, Mora.
Hermione turns and sees Ron waving his wand at the knob. No good. It's still locked, and he shrugs.
Well, it was worth a try.
So, what do? There must be 1,000 keys up there.
We're looking for a big old-fashioned one, probably silver, like the handle. There, that one. See, with the bright blue wings.
Ron points, and fluttering within a pocket of brass keys is a large silver key.
What's wrong with its wing?
That feather's pinched, probably from Snape catching it before us.
Hermione nods and sees Harry still staring at the broom.
Harry?
Too simple.
Oh, go on, Harry. If Snape could catch it on that old clean sweep, you can. It's not for nothing you're the youngest seeker in a century.
Harry nods uncertainly, still troubled, but slowly reaches out nonetheless. As his fingers touch the broomstick, the keys explode in a frenzy, hissing like wasps, swarming in great glittering clouds, and Ron's smile droops.
Well, this complicates things a bit.
As Harry kicks into the air, a seething cluster of keys falls like hard rain, chattering at his arms and legs, slicing at his skin, and shredding his sweater.
He'll be torn to pieces.
Horrified, Ron and Hermione watch Harry soar higher, fending off the keys with his free hand. He dives through a mad, clattering cluster of keys and spies the large silver one, fluttering only feet beyond his grasp. Harry hovers, grimacing as the hissing keys drop like darts onto his extended hand, then snatches the silver key. Instantly, Harry whips downward in a wide, dizzying circle, trying to outrun the now furious keys. They shadow his every move, drawing closer and closer, humming viciously as they begin to chip at the tail twigs of the broom. Despite Harry's throwing the broom into a reckless dive and steering with one hand, he flings the key to Ron. As Ron dashes to the door, Harry soars back up, taking the raging keys with him. then circles back and watches Ron jam the key into the lock. As Hermione and Ron scurry through the door, Harry rockets straight after them, the keys gaining once again, chipping at the tail of the broom like a buzzsaw through balsa wood. As the broom begins to waffle, Harry gives one last burst of speed and soars through the open door. Together, Hermione and Ron fling the door shut just before the keys rain down on them like bullets. They step into the next chamber, into utter darkness. Hermione's voice pierces the darkness.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
A small bouquet of blue flames bloom in Hermione's hands, illuminating little more than the trio's faces and some vague shapes looming ahead.
Oi, a graveyard?
Harry steps forward, and suddenly one of the shapes moves toward them. Hermione gasps, and the shape stops.
This is no graveyard.
Ron takes an unlit torch from the wall and touches it to the blue flames fluttering in Hermione's palms and kneels. As he paints the floor with light, a spark spits from the torch and ignites a trail of fire.
It's a chessboard.
Sure enough, as the chamber glows with light, a kind of battlefield is revealed, studded with faceless soldiers.
But what are we to do?
As Hermione takes a tentative step onto the board, a bishop's stone sword drops heavily down, barring her way.
It's obvious, isn't it? We've got no play. Are we across the room? Excuse me, are we meant to join you?
The bishop turns and nods to Ron.
Brilliant. Now, don't be offended, but neither of you are particularly good at chess.
Just tell us what to do.
All right, Harry, you take the empty bishop's square. Hermione, you'll be the queenside castle. As for me,
Ron leaps astride the only riderless horse.
I'll be a knight.
What happens now?
We play.
Across the board, a white pawn moves forward 2 squares. As Ron contemplates his own move, Hermione glances apprehensively at the fierce pieces across the board.
Ron, you don't suppose this is going to be like real Wizard's chess, do you?
Ron, contemplating something, doesn't answer immediately, instead gesturing to his own pawn.
You there, d5.
As Ron's black pawn obliges, White's pawn slides swiftly forth, and with a thunderous collision, the black pawn explodes, rubble raining to the ground.
Yes, Hermione, I think this is going to be exactly like Wizard's chess.
Some moves later, the chessboard, a real battlefield now, is littered on both sides with fallen pieces. Ron, drained but intense, surveys the board, muttering to himself.
Think. Castle to c3.
The black castle advances. Instantly, the white queen sweeps forward and with cruel indifference shatters them. Harry, only 1 square removed, stares in horror. Unnerved, he glances up at Ron, but Ron's eyes see only the board. Harry turns and takes a look for himself, blinking.
Wait a minute. She's made the same mistake I always make. If I go there, she has to take me, and the king's exposed.
Ron nods, but it's clear he doesn't share Harry's enthusiasm.
There's just one problem with that. It's you that has to go on, Harry. I know. Not me, not Hermione, you.
No, Ron.
What is it?
He's going to sacrifice himself.
No, there has to be another way.
Do you want to stop Snape from getting the stone or not? You understand, right, Harry? Once I make my move, the Queen will take me. Then you're free to check the King.
Harry stares at Ron, an understanding between them, and he simply nods. Ron grips the reins and, without a word, drives his horse forward. Instantly, the White Queen pounces. As Ron hits the floor, Hermione screams. She starts to go toward him, but Harry holds up his hand.
No! Don't forget, we're still playing.
Hermione nods, staring at Ron. Harry steps forward. The White Queen moves to block, but it's futile. Harry stares at her, eyes full of hatred. then steps forward, placing his trembling hand on the cold stone of her gown, and with the gentlest of shoves, he topples her.
Checkmate.
As a veil of dust hovers, the White King removes his crown. He lets it roll from his fingers across the stone floor where it comes to rest at Harry's feet. Harry stares at Hermione's stricken face.
If you can, go to the Eyrie and send a message to Dumbledore. Run straight. I have to go on.
Hermione turns, her eyes glittering. Without warning, she rushes forward, embracing Harry.
You're a great wizard, Harry Potter. You are, you know.
Not as good as you.
Me? Books and cleverness? There are more important things. Friendship and bravery. And oh, Harry, be careful.
She turns and goes back to Ron. Harry studies his two friends and looks away. The remaining chessmen bow, parting the way to the next door, and he steps forward. All alone, Harry makes his way through a corridor that drops down like a tunnel. Up ahead, a chamber glimmers. He descends a staircase. As the chamber below comes into view, he sees a figure standing before the mirror of Erised.
You.
The figure turns. It's Professor Quirrell.
No, it can't be. Snape.
Yes, he does seem the type, doesn't he? So useful, Snape. Swooping around like an overgrown bat. Next to him, who would suspect poor stuttering Professor Quirrell?
But that day, during the Quidditch match, Snape tried to kill me.
No, dear boy. I tried to kill you. And trust me, if Snape's cloak hadn't caught fire and broken my eye contact, I would have succeeded, even with Severus muttering his little counter-curse.
Snape was trying to save me.
Oh, don't misunderstand. He hates you, just as he hated your father when they were at Hogwarts together. But he never wanted you dead. Your father, after all, saved his life once, long ago.
Harry looks stunned. Quirrell looks amused.
Didn't know. Surprising, given how curious you are, Potter. I knew you were a danger to me right off, especially after Halloween.
You let the troll in.
Quirrell nods, examining the mirror as he speaks.
Yes, I have a way with trolls. Snape, unfortunately, wasn't fooled. While everyone else was running about the dungeons, he went straight to the third floor to head me off. That three-headed dog didn't even manage to bite Snape's leg off properly. He, of course, never trusted me again, rarely left me alone. But he doesn't understand. I'm never alone. Never. Now, what does this mirror do? I see what I desire. I see myself holding the stone. But how do I get it?
Use the boy.
Harry glances about in horror as the dark voice echoes. Quirrell turns and eyes Harry.
Potter!
Quirrell points to the mirror. As Harry steps in front, he sees himself looking pale and scared. Then, slowly, his reflection smiles and puts its hand in its pocket, pulling out a blood-red stone. Harry's eyes widen in a mixture of stunned disbelief and fear. Struggling to control his expression, he shuts his eyes briefly, as if making a wish. He lets out a breath and opens his eyes once again. His reflection winks and returns the stone to its pocket. To Harry's amazement, something drops heavily into his own pocket. He's gotten the stone.
What is it? What do you see?
I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore. I've won the House Cup.
He lies.
Tell the truth. What do you see?
Let me speak to him.
Master, you are not strong enough.
I have enough strength for this.
Quirrell reaches up and unfurls his turban. In the mirror, Harry watches a face appear on the back of Quirrell's head.
Voldemort.
Harry Potter, we meet again.
Petrified, Harry stares at the face. It's hideous and constantly changing, struggling to become whole.
Yes, you see what I've become. Unicorn blood can sustain me, but it cannot give me a body of my own. But there is something that can. Something that, conveniently enough, lies in your pocket.
Harry wheels, dashing toward the staircase.
Stop him!
Coolly, Quirrell snaps his fingers and Just as Harry reaches the threshold, flames shoot from the floor, barring his way.
Don't be a fool, Harry. Why suffer horrific death when you can join me and live?
Never.
Bravery. Your parents said it too. Tell me, Harry, would you like to see your mother and father again?
Harry stops and looks up. Quirrell steps aside, Voldemort's face sliding away from the glass and revealing Harry's parents.
Together, we can bring them back. All I ask is for something in return.
Slowly, almost involuntarily, Harry removes the stone from his pocket.
That's it, Harry. There is no good and evil. There is only power in those too weak to seek it. Together, we'll do extraordinary things. Just give me the stone.
Harry studies his parents' faces, drifting to his mother's, when suddenly Voldemort's hideous face surfaces through hers and she's gone.
Liar.
Voldemort's eyes narrow.
Kill him!
Instantly, Quirrell flies across the room, knocking Harry clean off his feet, and the stone tumbles from his grasp. Quirrell drops his hand, closing it around Harry's neck. Harry winces at the touch, his face creased in pain, looking up into Quirrell's face, when, for the briefest of moments, it becomes Voldemort's. Harry gasps, struggling, when, to his amazement, Quirrell's own face returns, screaming, releasing Harry and recoiling away from him.
What is
Harry, breathing hard, follows Quirrell's gaze, staring in horror. Quirrell's fingers slowly turn to dust.
You bubbling fool! Get the stone!
Harry rises and looks at Quirrell's withering fingers, then to his own hands, which are healthy and whole. As Quirrell starts to move, Harry, in the flash of a second, decides he bolts forward, reaching up with both hands and presses them to Quirrell's face. Quirrell screams, but Harry holds on tight, growing weaker as the face under his fingers begins to dissolve, until, finally, just when Harry looks ready to pass out, Quirrell's face drops away. Harry staggers back, and Quirrell's body steps forward, blindly lurching toward Harry, when it crumbles to dust. Harry stands still, just staring, and turns wearily to pick up the stone, when suddenly an apparition bearing Voldemort's devilish face swoops up behind him. Harry spins, watching in terror, as whoosh! In a violent rush, Voldemort returns to dust and whistles forward, passing through Harry, blasting him back through the air and onto the stone floor. As the dust disappears, all is quiet once more, and we see Harry laying on the floor, the stone glimmering dully in his palm. Harry awakes in a hospital bed of his own. On a table next to him, treats are piled high, including a raft of open wizard cards. In one, Dumbledore beams down at him.
Good afternoon, Harry.
Harry squints, as if the card itself had spoken to him. Then he sees that the real Dumbledore is sitting on a windowsill. The great wizard slides off and gestures to the treats.
Ah, tokens from your admirers.
Admires?
What happened down in the dungeons between you and Professor Quirrell is a complete secret. So, naturally, the whole school knows. Your friend Ronald has saved you the trouble of opening your chocolate frogs. The one suspects Agrippa and Ptolemy still elude him.
Ron was here. Is he alright? What about Hermione?
Fine, both of them. Madame Pomfrey has explicitly forbidden visitors, but I think, with the help of a silken cloak, they've managed to monitor your progress.
But what happened to the...
Relax, dear boy. The stone has been destroyed. My friend Nicholas and I had a little chat and agreed it was best all around.
But then, Lamel, he'll die, won't he?
He has enough elixir to set his affairs in order. But, yes, he will die. To one as young as you, I'm sure it seems incredible, but to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure.
But to destroy such a remarkable thing.
Yes, as much money and life as one could ever want. The two things most human beings would choose above all else. Unfortunately, humans do have a knack for choosing precisely those things that are worse for them.
How is it I got the stone, sir? 1 minute I was staring in a mirror.
Ah, you see, only a person who wanted to find the stone, find it, but not use it, would be able to get it. One of my more brilliant ideas. And between you and me, that's saying something.
Does that mean, with the stone gun, that is, that Voldemort can never come back?
I'm afraid there are other ways for him to return. And when, if he does, it will take someone willing to fight a losing battle to stop him again. Someone like your parents, someone like you.
Professor Dumbledore, Voldemort said if I gave him the stone, he could bring back my family. Could he have, sir? Really?
Some people, mirrors, Harry. They reflect our most desperate desires. We see what they want us to see. As painful as it surely was, you made the right choice.
Harry nods, and Dumbledore studies him thoughtfully.
Do you know why Professor Quirrell couldn't bear to touch you, Harry? It's because of your mother. She sacrificed herself for you, and that kind of act leaves a mark.
Harry reaches up toward his scar.
No, this kind of mark cannot be seen. It leaves in your very skin. It is this very thing someone like Professor Quirrell, full of hatred and greed, cannot understand or bear to touch.
And what is it?
Love, Harry. Love.
Dumbledore looks away and smiles at Harry's treats.
Ah, Bertie bought every flavor beans. I was unfortunate enough in my youth to come across a vomit-flavored one. And since then, I'm afraid I've lost my liking for them. But I think I'll be safe with a nice toffee. Alas, earwax.
Harry leaves the hospital wing and limps down the staircase. He can hear the good cheer of those feasting beyond the doors of the Great Hall. Below, Hermione and Ron stand talking. Harry stops, simply studying them. When they turn and see him, nothing is said for a moment, all of them beyond words. Then Harry nods at Ron's bruises.
All right there, Ron?
All right.
All right. Hermione?
She smiles.
Never better.
The roaring hall is bedecked in green and silver, Slytherin colors, in honor of their winning the House Cup.
Do you think Dumbledore meant for it all to happen, and for you to do it, sending you your father's cloak and all?
Well, if he did, that's terrible. You could have been killed. Come to think of it, I could have been killed.
I think Dumbledore knows pretty much everything that goes on here. The only thing I don't understand is Snape.
Professor Snape, Potter.
Harry looks up and sees Professor Mcgonagall there.
Yes, of course. I was only wondering, is it true? Did he hate my father?
They were not compatible personalities, if that's what you mean. And then, of course, your father did something Severus could never forget.
What was that?
He saved his life.
Astonished, Harry glances at Snape sitting at the high table.
I suppose he felt in his obligation to look after you this year.
Of course. And now that he's squared things, he can hate Harry in peace. Right, Professor?
Hogwarts teachers do not hate their students, Mr. Weasley, no matter how taxi they may be.
I think she's warming up to me.
At the high table, Dumbledore rises and the hall quiets.
Another year gone. Now, as I understand it, the House Cup needs awarding, and the point stands thus. In fourth place, Gryffindor with 312 points.
Percy turns and glares at Ron.
You'd think saving the bloody school from a Dark Lord would count for something.
In third place, Hufflepuff with 352 points. In second, Ravenclaw with 426. And in first place, with 472 points, Slytherin House.
The Slytherin table erupts. Draco Malfoy, banging his goblet, casts a smirk at Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
Yes, yes, well done, Slytherin, well done. However, recent events must be taken into account. I have a few last-minute points to award.
The hall goes very still. The Slytherin smiles fade a bit.
First, to Miss Hermione Granger for the cool use of intellect when others were in grave peril. 50 points.
As the Gryffindors cheer, Hermione looks overwhelmed.
Second, to Mr. Ronald Weasley for the best played game of chess Hogwarts has seen in many years. 50 points.
My youngest brother, you know.
Third, to Mr. Harry Potter for pure nerve and outstanding courage. I award Gryffindor 60 points.
The din is deafening as Hermione quickly makes these calculations.
Oh my goodness! We've tied Slytherin!
And finally, it takes a great deal of bravery to stand your enemies, but even more to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom.
As the room roars and the hourglasses shift their stones, a stunned Neville accepts wild slaps on the back.
Assuming my calculations are correct, I believe a change of decoration is in order. Gryffindor has won the House Cup.
Dumbledore claps his hands, and instantly the green and silver of Slytherin become the scarlet and gold of Gryffindor. Neville, white with shock, disappears under a pile of people hugging him. Draco Malfoy looks stunned and horrified. Snape, with a horrible, forced smile, shakes Professor McGonagall's hand, then catches Harry's eye, his hatred still evident, but not enough to mar this moment. Harry considers the cheering faces that surround him, alone in the eye of a happy hurricane. For a moment, he is not part of them, just watching. Then his voice joins the others, his face saying it all. This is a long way from the cupboard under the stairs. Outside on the platform, the Hogwarts Express stands steaming, ready to depart. From the doorway, Ron calls to Harry, alone on the platform.
Come on now, Harry.
Harry glances about once more, then starts for the train.
Didn't think you'd be leaving without saying goodbye, did you?
Harry stops and smiles as Hagrid comes loping forward. Hagrid hands him a leather-bound book.
That there's for you to open on the train. Which seems to be leaving, by the way.
Harry holds out his hand, and Hagrid takes it, pulling him into a rough hug.
Go on now. And Harry, if that dolt of a cousin of yours Dudley gives you any grief, you're really starting to give a pair of ears to go with that tail of his.
But Hagrid, we're not allowed to do magic away from Hogwarts. You know that.
I do, but your cousin don't.
Ron half dozes against the window of the train, while Hermione does some light reading. Harry sits opposite them, studying Hagrid's gift curiously. Then he opens it, and inside, the pages are filled with wizard photographs. Smiling and waving at Harry from every page are the faces he first saw in the mirror of Erised. The faces of his mother and father. As the train lurches forward, Hermione looks up.
Feels strange, doesn't it, to be going home?
Harry traces his finger over the smiling face of his mother and looks up, following Hermione's gaze to the window.
I'm not going home. Not really.
The end. And this completes Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, as told by all of us here at Pottercord. I just want to take a moment to thank each and every person who has been a part of this project every step of the way. I couldn't have done it without every person who's been involved. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing your time, your talents, and above all, our joint love of Harry Potter. Have a magical day. Our incredible voice actors are partnering with our very talented artists to create a whole new realm of something we have not tried before, and we're very excited to bring this to you now. So I would like to introduce, oh, sake, Kakoa, god damn it. Sorry.
So, naturally, the whole school knows. Sorry.